start to reach the end of today. The week has flown by so quickly, I can't believe it's Thursday already, sorry, Tuesday. The few, the proud, those of you who have hung on to the end, we have saved perhaps the best for last. Hank Chen is going to introduce himself because he's going to probably do a better job than I, as you can tell if you've been in any of the sessions that I've been chairing. But it is my great privilege to introduce you, and I'm hoping to learn something about kicking ransomware out of critical infrastructure, because gosh, it sure does not belong there. Yeah. Can I have a warm round of applause? Take it away, Hank.
Okay, thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hank from TXOne Networks, and I'm here today to talk about our mitigation strategy for ransomware in critical infrastructure. And why is this important? Because there are more and more ransomware targeting ICS OT environment, and our goal is try to defend against this ransomware attack. Before I start my presentation, let me tell you a little bit about my colleague and I. Mars is the co-author of this presentation, and he also is my manager, and his work mainly focused on ICS scandal, IoT malware analysis, and enterprise security. As for me, I'm a threat researcher of TXOne Networks, and my work mainly focused on malware analysis, product security, and vulnerability research. And I also is a CTF player. Okay. And so now let me go through the outline of today's presentation. And in the first part, I will review the ransomware attack in ICS OT environment in the last year. And we also have the 5 key observations from this attack. And we also have a definition of ICS-related ransomware, which help us to focus on some ransomware attacking critical infrastructure. And in the next part, I will show you our matrix, which is based on a characteristic of this ransomware attacking critical infrastructure, and also have some case study about their execution flow. And in the third part, I will show you our mitigation strategy for ransomware in the ICS OT environment, because there are some difference between IT and OT. And I will give a demonstration on how this ransomware mechanism, mitigation mechanism work. At the end of my presentation, I will talk about the concept of zero trust in OT, because our mitigation strategy is a part of zero trust in OT, and we focus on the endpoint part. So let me start with the ICS threat in review. And I would like to take you through the overview of the attack on ICS OT environment in the last year. And we can see there are many ICS-related attacks, and some of them, or most of them, are ransomware in the last year. As you can see, in the first half of 2021, a large number of companies were attacked by Revell, such as Acer and Cassia, and especially Acer, which is a Taiwan company, and suffered a loss of $15 million. In the second half of 2021, we saw a lot of attacks on the company by Lockbit 2.0, and such as Bangkok Air or ERG. And I will talk about more detail about these 2 ransomware later. So after reviewing the ICS threat in the last year, we conclude 5 key observations regarding this ICS threat in the 2021. And the first one is based on our statistics. The most active criminal group in 2021 are Conti, Maze, Lockbit, Revell, and DarkSide. And the second one is they target the critical infrastructure and leverage supply chain attack. For example, Colonial Pipeline attack by the DarkSide, and the Cassia supply chain attack by the Revell. And the third one is the hacker adopt RAS, which means run as a business model service with the affiliate program. And the fourth one is the US president also signed an executive order to improve the national security, and which benefit the critical infrastructure. And the fifth one is just like the past. In 2021, there are more vulnerability, and hacker leverage the vulnerability such as Cassia VSA and Log4j. And from the previous slide, we saw many ransomware attacks and some key observations. Because OT environment is vulnerable and the impact could be disastrous. So I would like to introduce our definition of ICS-related ransomware, and it can be categorized as two types. And our mitigation strategy will focus on these two types of ICS-related ransomware. As you can see on the left, this category is the ICS-related ransomware targeting the ICS-specific application and certificate. And the ransomware in this category might have some ICS cloud list, or it has affect the ICS application directly, like use some ICS protocol. And the other category affect the industry in the OT, such as medical, traffic, water, and so on. So after reviewing this ICS threat in the past, we know there are many ransomware attacks targeting ICS OT environment. So let's move on the characteristic of ransomware that affect critical infrastructure. In this part, I will show you what the behavior of ICS-related ransomware and how this ransomware work. So you will understand why our mitigation strategy design and why our mitigation strategy work for preventing this ransomware. So I would like to show you the ICS-related ransomware matrix. It consists of 16 different ICS ransomware. And you can see in this slide, they're just first half of the 16 ransomware. The next half of 16 ransomware will in the next slide. So the purpose of this matrix is to analyze the ICS-related ransomware behavior and prevent their attack. And we can successfully defend against these 16 ransomware by knowing their behavior. So let's take a look at the matrix. In general, ransomware would have most of behaviors shown in the matrix. So you might wonder why some entry is no. And because we only analyze the main PE file of the ransomware because we want to protect the endpoint product. So you will see that only a few behavior will appear. And after further analysis, it shows there are two trends. We notice the main PE file of the ransomware framework are more customized and completeness in a single PE file. For customization, the hacker designed ransomware based on existing configuration and a command argument, such as revel. And for completeness, the hacker designed the ransomware to use a faster file encryption algorithm, complicated key management, and the domain lateral moving, such as LockBit 2.0. And to increase the visibility of ransomware so that we can better detect them, understanding more detail about ransomware execution flow will help us a lot when we try to design the mitigation strategy. So we pick out some execution flow of ransomware to let you know how ransomware works. And I would like to show you here is the LockBit 2.0, and which is the most frequent attack in the first quarter of 2022, based on our statistic. And we break them down into a step. And in our research, we look at each step and try to figure out the best practice. Our mitigation strategy will focus on some of common behavior of these 16 ransomware, such as creating mutex, current process and service, and enumerating files or delete shadow copy, and so on. So let's take a closer look at the lateral movement of LockBit 2.0. The LockBit 2.0 adopt the AD domain group policy and run on all domain machine by the PowerShell. Although our mitigation strategy is not currently focused on these techniques, we still have to keep this in our mind because we will talk about it later. And I would like to tell you more about the common characteristic this ransomware would have. For example, WannaCry, which is the most notorious ransomware in the world. And the most interesting thing about WannaCry is that it contains multiple files in a single P file. And these files are for different functionality. Again, our mitigation strategy can focus on some of these common behavior, even they are in the different files. And another notorious ransomware is Reveal. In the Cassia VSA attack, Reveal sideloading itself as a Windows Defender to trick the system. And it has a 3-layer packer and configuration encrypted by RC4. This means it is a ransomware which can be customized by the attacker. And there are common behavior we just saw in the previous slide. So our mitigation strategy can focus on them. So let's move on to another ransomware, which is RangerLocker. The most interesting thing about RangerLocker is that it dropped a Windows XP VM and mount the target file system, and then run itself inside the VM to avoid detection. However, we can detect file operation on the target file system when it starts encryption. In this case, the detection of behavior might be difficult. So our mechanism has multiple phases in case we fail to catch it in the earlier phase. So after understanding how ransomware work and their behavior, we conclude the common attack path of ICS-related ransomware based on MITRE evaluation. There are 7 phases in the ICS-related ransomware attack. And the first one, ransomware attack might access the victim system in many different ways, such as phishing email, or downloading, or vulnerability. And then it will be executed by the PowerShell or Windows command line. And it will try to discover more service open in the system. And it also hides itself or shut down the antivirus or firewall. And it will try to infect as many possible endpoints in the system. And it might steal secret data or some secret information and send it back to the C2 server. Finally, it will steal ransomware. And this phase is what we focus on. And we will stop ransomware here. So according to our metrics in the previous slide, we also sum up some techniques used in the ICS-related ransomware. In terms of defense, some of these behavior are important in preventing the ransomware attack. The atomic check by the mutex or file marker, kill the process service which use the file to be encrypted, anti-recovery by deleting shadow copy, and partial encryption, and so on. So after fully understanding the behavior of this ICS-related ransomware and their execution flow, now I'm going to talk about our mitigation strategy. So before mitigate ransomware, we based on MITRE evaluation metrics for ICS. We apply some tactics shown in the red and corresponding techniques shown in the purple to determine the best mitigation solution. So just to let you know, some techniques which are common when evaluating ransomware in ICS OT environment. For example, lateral movement involves remote service technique, and it can help us to determine whether the ransomware can spread or not. Just like LockBit 2.0, use domain group policy to spread itself. And through the MITRE evaluation, we gain a good understanding of the ransomware attacking the ICS OT environment. We can mitigate ransomware by tackling 24 mitigation to protect the ICS OT environment. These 24 mitigation can be grouped under 3 categories. And there are 12 for the human policy, and 9 for the endpoint, and 5 for the network. As we know, usually there is no virus pattern update, no network segmentation, and no update system in ICS OT environment. However, we can adopt this mitigation technique to enhance our security. For example, network segmentation can help to isolate the vulnerable network from public, and network intrusion prevention can provide the virtual patch for vulnerable system, and exploit protection prevent the exploit on the end of service software. And usually we can mitigate ransomware effectively by applying all the techniques I've just mentioned earlier. However, a lot of people don't know if ransomware attack ICS OT environment, mitigation will be much more challenging. There are 3 reasons. And the first one is compared with IT environment, it is hard to update the latest virus pattern in the ICS OT environment because they can stop their operation. And they can take a risk to update the system because it might cause the system reboot. So the ransomware with new design can bypass this pattern. And the second one is the variety of operating environment of OT is low, which make it more vulnerable for the same attack from the ransomware group. And the third one is it is hard to minimize the impact because if ransomware cause operation shutdown in OT, it might cause more critical impacts such as blackout, water cut, or even nuclear accident. For this reason, it will be harder to implement the mitigation, and we have to be careful to implement this strategy in ICS OT environment. And despite the challenge, we have a solution to mitigate a ransomware attack on ICS OT environment based on our analysis of this ransomware attack. We can overcome the limitation mentioned in the previous slide. We propose the practical ransomware mitigation strategy in the ICS world. Our strategy involves 3 phases. And we combine those 3 phases and try to complement each shortage. And the first one is non-ransomware scanning, which is based on malware pattern. However, the method might not work because the pattern is old. And the second one is ICS-related ransomware pre-detection mechanism, which can improve our ability to detect ransomware before they stop encryption. However, they still have some false positive, like ransomware might disguise as a normal ransomware, a normal software, and the normal software might be mistaken as a ransomware. And so we have a third phase, which is ransomware encryption sequence detection. And we can prevent the file encryption on the ICS machine. This phase is effective in stopping ransomware, but might slow down the system performance. So after introducing our mitigation strategy, I will introduce each phase in the following slides. And the first phase is about malware patterns, and this is common and well-known method, so I will skip this phase here. So, and let me tell you more about the second phase, which is ICS-related ransomware pre-detection mechanism. Usually, a ransomware would have 4 most frequent behavior according to our analysis. And they should be detected at this stage. They are process termination, file enumeration, mutex creation, and shadow copy deletion. However, our demo do not block all of this behavior because we want to capture all in the video. If we collect more information to verify the ransomware attack, we can stop one of the malicious behavior to reduce the impact, or even stop the ransomware before they start encryption or spread. So I would like to show you our demo of this ransomware pre-detection mechanism. In this video, you will see the detection of LogB 2.0, and we can identify the suspicious behavior by analyzing the process triggered by this behavior. We detect these 4 behavior by the kernel driver, which is harder to bypass compare with the user mode hooking. So let me start our demo video. So you can see our driver is recording malware behavior to detect any suspicious, and LogB 2.0 is created. And maybe, here is create mutex has been detected. And after a while, you can see here is a process explorer, and it will be terminated here, and the terminate process was be detected. And then it's an enumerate file was be detected. And then we capture the child process created by the LogB 2.0. And here is the VSA admin created by the child process, and which is used for deleted shadow copy. And deleted shadow copy is being detected. So in the end, you can see the wallpaper is changed, and LogB 2.0 encrypt the entire system. And all of the 4 behavior I mentioned earlier was being detected. And to be precise detection, you can add more conditions, like which process should not be terminated, or which certain disks of shadow copies should not be deleted. So after having introducing the pre-detection mechanism, I would like to talk about the last phase of our mitigation strategy, ransomware encrypt sequence detection, which is the last defense for defeating ransomware attack, and it is also more precise and effective. To let you know how we can detect ransomware encrypt sequence, I will demonstrate how LogB 2.0 does file encryption. We know LogB 2.0 adopt the multi-threading encryption strategy, which means besides the main thread, there are 2 types of thread will be spawned. They are enumerate file thread and encrypt file thread. And all these threads are designed to communicate with each other. And the main thread will first initialize IO completion port, which is used for multi-thread communication. What you see here is a part of multi-thread communication of LogB 2.0. The main thread also generates 2 thread pools to store enumeration file thread and encryption file thread. And most of ransomware is designed to create a whitelist to avoid system crash. So LogB also do these things. So you can see here are the whitelist LogB use. And once the enumeration file thread start, it will check all the files in the system, and it only encrypt the ones is not in the whitelist. As I mentioned earlier, let's thread communication with each other. So after that, the information about which file have to be encrypted will be sent to the encrypt file thread. And here is the create file, and then it sends the file by NTHU information file. So the encryption start after the encryption file thread receive this information from the enumerate file thread. And when the encryption is done, LogB 2.0 write the encrypt data back to the target file and rename the file. So to help us design the mechanism to defend the system against the ransomware attack, we studied the 16 ICS related ransomware I showed you before and analyze all the encryption sequence. It can verify these 5 type of file IO sequence. Then we can confirm the ransomware is attacking the system. Then the mechanism we design can block it. And I would like to show you how block ransomware by ransomware encrypt sequence detection. Our design combines the finding of our analysis and the reference paper Unveil, which is a paper published in Unix 2016. And it shows there are 3 categories of file IO sequence it can block. And in our mechanism, we can block all of 5 IO sequence. I just show you the previous slide. So let me sum up our mechanism, which can mitigate 3 categories of ransomware attack. They are ransomware, non-ransomware attack, and variant ransomware attack, and the unknown ransomware attack. For non-ransomware attack, we propose to use non-ransomware scanning to defeat ransomware, which is virus pattern. And for variant ransomware attack, we propose to use ICS-related ransomware pre-detection mechanism to detect ransomware. And for unknown ransomware attack, we propose to use ransomware encrypt sequence detection to stop ransomware. And I would like to conclude my presentation with the goal we try to accomplish in our work. It is called OT Zero Trust, which is a concept to protect mission-critical assets to keep operation running. In IT environment, any logon user could be evil. But in ICS OT environment, any critical asset could also be evil. This makes the detection more difficult. ICS OT environment, we should verify network, endpoint, user, asset, or even the supply chain of software. For this reason, our mitigation strategy for ransomware must consist of multiple phases to increase the accuracy and to minimize the false negative. So in conclusion, it is why to successfully defend against ransomware attack, we should never trust, always verify. And that is the end of my presentation. I just show you our mitigation strategy for ransomware in ICS OT environment. And it is a part of OT Zero Trust to prevent ransomware in the endpoint. Thank you for your attention. And now I would like to invite any question you might have.
All right, we've got mics out here. I know it's been a long day for some of you, but if you don't ask now, I'm afraid you're going to have to catch later on at the break. Got any questions? Just for now, 2-for-1 Belgian chocolates for questions. Okay.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
You think that we're going to have solved the OT problem 10 years from now?
I think we have to improve. We have some progress to solve some faulty problem. For example, there's some firm will concern the system performance, and we do a lot of effort to solve this problem. And this is kind of different between enterprise product because they don't care about the system performance. But the OT firm will very care about this. So we have progress on this.
Excellent. Any other follow-up questions, comments? Well, join me in thanking our speaker. And according to my calculations, we still have 3 more days to be together and to learn and celebrate. So go out there and be excellent to each other and have a lot of fun. And remember to cough in your elbow if you need to cough. Take care. Have a great one. Thank you.
Thank you.